just for a while. 'Cause even if you're pushing me away, know that you can keep me out all day. Yeah, even if you're pushing me away, I'll stay. I'll wait. I see you cry, and it breaks my heart 1,000 times. 'Cause even if you're pushing me away, know that you can keep me out all day. Yeah, even if you're pushing me away, I'll know that I will never go away, and I could hold you tight at night and let you cry till you feel fine. 'Cause even if you're pushing me away, know that you can keep me out all day. Yeah, even if you're pushing me away, I'll stay. I'll wait.
Hey, my name's Francis and welcome to Stories in Sound. Today we're here with Cloudy. Go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a bit about the song that we just heard.
Hello, I'm Cloudy. We just listened to I'll Stay, which is the first single of my latest EP, which I just put out. This song, it actually wasn't originally supposed to be on the EP. It was a song I just wrote, I think it was a couple of weeks before lockdown. And then lockdown hit and we were in the process of recording the EP. So everything kind of
Yeah.
stopped.
Yeah.
And me and my producer did a studio session over Zoom. And we were kind of like, oh man, like everything sucks right now. Let's just do something different.
Yeah.
So I pulled this song out and it was a real ball changer for the EP. Because a lot of the songs were all quite slow and sad. And then this one ended up being quite an upbeat sound.
Yeah.
And I realized I really liked it.
Yeah.
So it really influenced the way the EP went.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, it was cool.
Yeah. Because like you say, you sort of pulled it out. Sort of how long had it been around?
Probably like 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay.
Not long.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
just, I didn't think I was going to do anything with it.
So it was just like something that you had. It's like,
Yeah.
well, I did this. You're like,
Yeah.
what do you think? Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Did it kind of morph and change much from the version that you had?
Arrangement wise, it stayed pretty much the same, but I wrote it on a ukulele.
Yeah.
So there was a lot added
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
So it was a lot bigger than I initially had it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, nice. It's cool when those sort of things happen, when it's sort of, especially because it's a really like you're saying, it's a very different song relative to some of the others on the EP, and it's something that probably wouldn't have come out had lockdown not
Exactly.
happened and stuff. So it's
Yeah.
all that sort of like one thing happens leads to another.
It was meant to be. Yeah, for sure.
nice.
Yeah, and a goal for me with the EP was that I didn't want I wanted to have dynamic and different sounds. Like I didn't want it to sit in one box.
Yeah, just be in
I
one lane
wanted
the whole
something
time.
for everyone, so it was really nice to have this more upbeat, happier song.
Yeah, yeah.
Even though the topic's sad, but it's a bit more uplifting and
Yeah.
pop and yeah.
And its flavors.
Yeah, exactly.
How about you sort of tell us a bit about your own kind of musical history, your sort of origins musically, and you know what got you into singing, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so it's funny, singing's always been part of my life and I've always been surrounded by music, but it was always something I did very privately. And it wasn't till about end of 2018 I was going to a lot of gigs. My brother was in a band and I was watching a lot of bands. Even though this was like a metal hard rock scene,
Yeah.
I was watching everyone do it and I was like, man, like maybe I could do it. Because before that I'd just secretly do karaoke in my room.
Oh yeah.
I'd
Yeah,
keep it
yeah.
real quiet. Like I remember we learnt a guitar song at school and I thought it was so cool, and I'd just go home and steal my mum and my brother's guitar and
Yeah.
just be playing. But when I saw people doing it, I just kind of thought maybe I could do it. And I remember I told someone that I do sing and they dragged me along to an open mic, and this was like something I would never
Have done on your
have
own,
done,
kind of,
and
yeah.
like my parents were like, are you sure you want to like, because no one had really heard me sing or do anything, but from that moment on I was like, man, I love this.
Yeah.
And
So you're kind of hooked.
felt right, yeah, and then
Yeah.
I took myself to the studio and
Yeah.
just begun. Yeah.
Just started.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because as far as like on the guitar side, I think you say you picked it up and just started to play songs. Was there any kind of like formal teaching at any point, or is it just sort of learn as you go?
No, I basically just self-taught the whole way through. I'd sometimes like sit down with my brother because he's a great guitarist, and I'd be like, can you show me how to do this? But otherwise it was just going online, checking out chord shapes, learning them, and then I just do it by ear. Whatever sounded good, I would just put together. And, and I found that like songwriting was something I just naturally did, and it was because it was like a way I found to voice things and say things that I couldn't just say in a conversation.
Yeah.
Because that's often hard, but like I find it all right to sit in front of a group of people and sing a song about like some real personal stuff.
Yeah, as opposed to like openly talking about it.
Yeah. And I feel like that was the first time I found that outlet. Yeah.
Do you find it kind of like a cathartic kind of experience doing it? You're sort of just
definitely.
really kind of
Yeah, definitely.
afterwards.
Yeah, for sure.
Have you had people kind of like contact you with regards to some of the content of your songs or something, and being like, like I got this kind of feeling, I took this message like really to heart with any of the music?
Yeah, totally. Even after gigs, like I've had people come up to me and be like, wow, like that song really spoke to me, or like I was thinking about this thing that's going on in my life. And I was like, that's so cool. Like that's so cool, because, and that kind of also validated me doing this because I was so private about it. But I was like, wow, people enjoy it and they're relating
They're
to
connecting
it.
with it.
Because ultimately with music, I want people to feel something or relate to it, find comfort in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, or maybe hear the song and think like, oh, I couldn't say that out loud, but I've heard this song and it
and it's
really...
kind of put it all in words form.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that something you kind of search for with, or you gravitate towards with music that you listen to yourself? Like you find music that talks to you in that kind of way?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
I listen to a wide range of stuff, but I definitely do look for that.
Yeah.
Lyrics are always really important to me.
Yeah. Yeah. What sort of things have you been kind of listening to more recently? What did you kind of grow up with?
All sorts, because I mean, my mum was into a lot of alternative rock, so like Arctic Monkeys, a lot of New Zealand music. She took me to
Good
music
choice.
in the park, like like whenever it was on.
Yeah.
So I was always exposed to that. Then my dad would play like classic 50s, 60s rock and roll. My brother was a metalhead.
Yeah.
But I also enjoy like popular music. I love everything. Recently, I've been really into artists. Like there's a English girl at the moment called Doobie,
Okay.
and she's kind of like pop rock, indie rock kind of. But then my favourite bands are like Arctic Monkeys, Sticky Fingers, those kinds of things, yeah.
Yeah, nice. And because like I see, like sort of doing a bit of research and stuff online, you've got a few sort of Billie Eilish covers and stuff like that as well. Like on that more, I guess what you'd be kind of like, what will come into sort of more mainstream sort of pop or mainstream indie alt pop kind of thing. When did you start getting into that side of the sort of the music side of things? Yeah.
Billie Eilish was actually quite a big influence for me when I started.
Yeah.
Because like some of her lyrics are quite confronting, and she's
pretty dark.
She's very creatively free, and I thought that was awesome. So yeah, she was a huge influence for me starting off.
Yeah.
Definitely looked at that, and it made me think like, oh, you can just do what you want when you're writing music, making music.
Yeah, totally. It's like seeing, for what she sort of done with it as well, it's just insane how far it's kind of taken, especially with that, like I mentioned, that sort of darkness around some of the lyrical content. For it to get the exposure that it actually has is just like, what?
Because some of it's quite uncomfortable.
Oh yeah.
But yeah.
I saw there was like a link, like 21 Pilots and Billie Eilish both kind of have these quite dark themes around it, but still got past a lot of what people would consider the mainstream gatekeepers that kind of kept a lot of that kind of content away, and it kind of made it a lot more acceptable to talk about.
For sure.
A lot of that sort of stuff in music.
Yeah.
Which was just awesome to see.
It's awesome.
Yeah. When it comes to writing yourself, sort of how do you normally kind of go about it? Do you start with the guitar and a few sort of like a bit of a chord progression, or you start with the melody and some lyrics? How do you go about?
When I write, it's always very in the moment. Like it'll be like something might have happened, or I'll be thinking about something, and it's like a therapy for me. I pick up my guitar just sitting on my bed, and I'll just start playing chords and just saying what I think. I'll get my voice memo recorder out and just improvise a bit until I get a groove or a rhythm going. Yeah. And sometimes I'll write first. I'll write my lyrics first, because that's a huge part of it for me, is the writing. Always loved writing. I remember when I was writing a lot of my first songs, I'd record like a little chord progression on my phone, and I'd be at work. I worked an office job, and I'd just be listening to it and writing my lyrics on the side. So
like, oh yeah, cool.
Yeah. But yeah, often it's just in the moment.
Yeah.
Just expressing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sort of do you, like when you do start to sort of get a feel for it, do you then kind of take it a more formal writing kind of way? Or do you keep just trying to like sort of just vibe it out?
I try and vibe it out as much as I can, but obviously you need to get a bit more of a structure going, like a clear chorus, a verse.
Yeah.
And I'll think about like how I'm writing it on the guitar to make it different, add dynamic,
Yeah.
But I guess the real creative part comes in when I go to the studio, and I can sit down and work with someone who can do all these other big ideas I have in my head, which I can't necessarily do on my own, which is awesome.
Yeah. So you've got this sort of like feeling of how you'd want to take the song, combined with how they'd want to take the song, and then the sort of ability to do it, and you just sort of create the sort of piece that ends up happening. Yeah. Does it often change much? So I know we talked about sort of I'll Stay, kind of staying arrangement-wise sort of similar. Have there been any other songs that have had quite big changes when it actually just came to getting in the studio?
There haven't been like huge changes, because I get quite stubborn with keeping like what I've written. But I was really,
how it is.
I'm just like, no, I wrote it like this and I want to keep it like that.
Yeah.
But like going to the studio, I learned so much. And the producer, Harry Charles, that I work with, he's amazing, and he really pushed me out of my comfort zone. And that's where like Self-Help Guide and I'll Stay came through. They're much bigger and more kind of pop indie, alternative, in an alternative direction. But yeah, I think the song that might have changed the most was Self-Help Guide. We sort of rewrote the chorus to have it more catchy and straightforward to get that kind of pop song vibe. But yeah, otherwise lyrically everything always stays the same. That's like one rule I have in the studio, where I'm like, Because I feel like when I write a song, I'm like, this was my intention. Like,
Yeah.
it's finished for me in that regard.
And it's encapsulating that moment of time when you worked on it.
Oh,
yeah.
for sure. And I never feel like that needs to be edited. But we always add in instruments. Some chord changes happen. But yeah, mostly arrangement-wise, it stays the same.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
I think now's a good point to go into the next song, Unrequited Love. Tell us a little bit about it.
So I think Unrequited Love kind of speaks for itself in the lyrics. It's about having feelings for someone and that not being reciprocated. I feel like that's probably happened to many people in their lives. But this song, it's almost like an acceptance of it. It's very defeated, like you're saying, I'll be your friend if that's what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that something from own experience or from observing others?
It's from my experience. And then this song was actually one of the first songs I fully finished writing.
Yeah.
And I remember being so like, I didn't want to show anyone at the time. But
Was it like an embarrassed about almost like the content of it, or?
Yeah, I just thought like, I can't sing this in front of everyone.
Yeah.
It's so personal.
Yeah, yeah.
But then I realized like if people hear it, they'll relate it to themselves. And yeah, it was really cool seeing what it became in the studio as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, now we're all about to hear it.
Yeah. This is Unrequited Love.
Let's check it out.
'Cause boy, you've got my heart, and I might just fall apart. Be careful with the way you look at me, 'cause falling for you was just too hard. I'll be your friend, I'll be your friend if that's what you want. But honey, I don't know how long I'll wait for you. I'll be your friend, I'll be your friend if that's what you want. But I might just fall apart. You're always on my mind,
So let's start talking a little bit about the new EP, Good Grief. Tell us a little about that, sort of the meaning of just in that title.
Good Grief. There's
Yeah.
kind of a double meaning to it.
Yeah.
Because, like, there was a lot of heavy content in there. So it was kind of like good grief, but also
Yeah.
like good grief.
Yeah.
Like it's good.
The positives of sort of like, or almost like the grief isn't always sort of like, okay, it's a negative experience kind of at the time, but there can be positives
Yeah.
that kind of come from
Yeah,
it.
and I see the EP as like that positive that came out
Yeah.
of hardship.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And was it kind of like, did you feel like it was a release, getting it out, you know,
Yeah.
after like sitting on those songs for however long you've sort of sat on some of them, and then finally collecting them all together and putting it out to the world, you're kind of like, oh, good grief.
Definitely. It almost didn't feel like mine anymore, you know. I was like, it's out
That's
there.
something. Yeah, that's something that people say is once
Yeah.
the song's out, it's no longer yours.
Yeah,
It's theirs.
that's definitely how it feels.
Yeah. Did you kind of go into it knowing the meaning that people would kind of take from it, or is it sort of leave it a bit more open to interpretation?
I kind of like to leave it open
Yeah.
to interpretation because everyone will see it differently.
Yeah.
Everyone will view a song in a different way. Like I see it how I
Yeah.
dealt with or went through whatever I wrote about.
Yeah.
And someone else with a different point of view will hear it and take it differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because what kind of themes and stuff do you end up kind of diving into on this EP? Sort of either like sort of lyrically and
There's lots of love, heartbreak. That's a common theme.
yeah.
And personal struggle, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. And was that something that was it kind of like a period of time where a lot of these songs sort of came from? Like how long have some of these songs been around?
I probably wrote them 2 years ago. Most of them. Yeah, they were probably written around 2 years ago. And it was probably in a certain period of my life and I wrote those songs in the midst of it.
Yeah. And so when it did come to kind of almost like choosing the ones you wanted to really work on for this EP, was it more that these were the ones that were kind of at the point where they could be used for it, or was it because they were around from that sort of time, they all kind of worked together?
It was a bit of both. Like to start with, I had this list of songs, and then once we really dived into production and listened back, like we took one out, we added one in, because they fitted much better as a story.
Yeah.
And it ended up being like, apart from I'll Stay, like the songs that were written in that time.
In that same window of
Yeah.
time. Yeah, so it was kind of like just naturally fit,
Yeah.
again, sort of thematically at the time.
Yeah, and I see that with a lot of my songs when I look at them, like the titles lined up, I can see different phases. Yeah.
Because what was the earliest one that that's on there? What was the first one, as far as this EP, that sort of you first started to work on?
The first one we started to work on was probably Addicted to You. That came out as a single like a year before Good Grief came out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how long before like actually producing it as the single, how long before had you even had that sort of concept for that particular song?
Probably a year,
Yeah.
I'd say.
So sort of like you had it for a year and then it's been a year since it's come out.
Yeah.
Did it end up is that one of the ones that you're almost like quite, I guess, fresh when it came to writing, when you started to actually really work on that one? It was you were still kind of figuring yourself out as far as what you were doing musically and
Yeah, for sure, because I already had Dear Duncan out as well,
Yeah.
which is so different to the EP.
yeah.
So I came a long way from that song, even to Addicted to You,
Yeah.
to the EP, and I feel like each time I've made a song and finished it,
Yeah.
I'm one step closer to knowing my sound, and
Yeah.
what I like, and what the possibilities.
Yeah. And also just learning your voice and the way that you work
For
and
sure,
things as well.
and learning how to record properly and being in a studio, because that was all new to me as well.
Yeah, because tell us about who you worked with on the EP.
So I worked on the EP, I worked with Harry Charles. He was my producer, and I met him through Morgan Allen, who produced my very first single, Dear Duncan,
Yeah.
at Depot Sound. And then he brought Harry in for the EP.
Yeah.
And then from then on, we just worked together and created all the songs. And it was a really cool experience. Like, we clicked well musically. It was such a comfortable space to work in.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed the process, yeah.
Yeah. How did it go taking, because a lot of your music started, like, and from what you see sort of online as well, started just you and a guitar. How did it feel for you when you started to take things into more of that sort of bigger production?
It terrified me a little bit because I went into the EP and I was like, okay, I want it to be ukulele or guitar, mainly vocals, and maybe some atmospheric stuff, and we'll chuck a drum in. But I did get challenged, and I didn't realize how much you could do in the studio. But after I saw it all and we started going, I was like, okay, like I do like bigger sound and like having so many,
kind of moments and
all the elements you can add in. Like for Who Am I, which is on the EP, I remember saying like, no, this is going to be just ukulele and voice. But the more we went on, I was like, you can do so many cool things.
Who was the first one to kind of broach the idea with you about we could maybe do a few more things with these songs? It doesn't have to be just guitar, vocal. Like who sort of gingerly approached that?
It was definitely Harry.
Okay.
Yeah, he showed me the way.
Yeah.
Which I'm so grateful for. Yeah.
And have you started to, after sort of seeing how some of that's gone with the EP, have you started to dive into any of that side of things yourself, as far as like learning other instruments or sort of things around that?
Yeah, definitely. I've gone out and bought myself a little MIDI keyboard, and I'm trying to make demos. They're pretty rough, but like it's cool because I'm really starting to hear my own sound.
Coming through it.
And I'm for the next project I want to work closely with those demos. Because it's much easier to have it there rather than try and explain to someone a sound you're hearing in your head. Do you find yourself having those go-to, I don't know, descriptors or something like that, the words that you're like, I don't know, I just want it to sound sparkly or stuff like that? I gotta say that was a lot of how we worked. Like I'd describe colours, emotions through colours, or like I'd describe a scenery. Like I think Unrequited Love, I always said it feels like I'm underwater, kind of. That's how it should sound.
Like being sort of like weighed down. And so they were, and that, I guess that's again onto that production side, they sort of take that on board and sort of be able to sort of manipulate that into actually the feeling of it. Do you find, did that sort of take much time to really work out between you, or did Harry kind of jump on and just like he found it straight away?
Yeah, he thought it was great. He said, go make a mood board, go on Pinterest and put together pictures or something. And I did, and that's how I liked working as well, because I'm a very visual person. Because
what did the relationship end up being as far as for you, for Harry and for Morgan? So sort of writing and producing, was that sort of more you and Harry, and then on the more sort of technical tracking, recording, mixing kind of side, was that on Morgan? Or?
So it ended up being production, recording, everything was done with Harry. We did most of it at Depot, and then at the end we ended up going to his private studio and finishing it off, and then Morgan did all the mixes. And then it was mastered by Luke Finlay.
Nice.
Primal Mastering.
He's a beast. And was that just a relationship that they had, as far as like sort of send it to Luke to sort out to finish up?
Luke, he's a friend of mine as well, but Morgan also put me on to him for mastering, and so
it was just sort of that mutual, just like, that's a good
everyone
idea.
knows everyone.
Especially in New Zealand.
For sure.
I think now's a good point to go into the next song, Mirror Maze. Tell us a little bit about that one.
Yeah, so Mirror Maze is one of the more recent songs I've written.
Okay.
And I think the lyrics speak for themselves, but I'm hoping this will be one of the next songs I take to the studio.
And sort of, as far as the song's concerned, so performing it here was, the sort of solo guitar, just guitar and vocal. Is that something you're wanting to kind of keep for this one in the studio side of things as well?
Yeah, I hope to have a sort of acoustic base to it, but I want to add a lot of atmospheric elements, drums where appropriate. Just I'll try things out.
So you're not sort of like, again, it's not being like married to exactly how it is now.
No,
it's definitely open to
I'm
modify.
excited to modify and have lots going on.
Yeah, because there's definitely a lot of atmosphere on the EP itself as well, actually, with like there's like rain and sort of those sorts of layers going on too, which is when listening to, especially listening to it through headphones, you're just like, oh man, like you can start to really hear the layers and start to get a real feeling from the songs.
Yeah, because I hope that when people listen to the music, a picture's like painted in their head, like they can close their eyes and imagine where they would be. Kind of. Yeah.
take them away from the present space.
Yeah. Sounds strange, but yeah.
No, that's a cool intention to have for it. Yeah. Sweet. Let's check it out.
Cool.
There's a mirror maze, and I can't escape the things I've faced. Reflections in all directions, I'm haunted by my misconceptions. Mirror, mirror on the wall, don't follow me where I go. My mind is a mirror maze. Some things that I just can't erase. No, stuck inside a crystal ball, banging on the walls. Mirror, mirror on the wall, don't follow me where I go. Mirror, mirror on the wall, why don't you take me home? Tell me that I'll make it out alive, walking through the labyrinth of my mind. Maybe someday I will find my peace of mind. Mirror, mirror on the wall, don't follow me where I go. Mirror, mirror on the wall, why don't you take me home?
Looking back at like past videos and stuff like that, it's definitely sort of intimate. It's you and a guitar up on stage, or or at home, like sort of just you and a guitar singing and playing. What made you decide to get a band together, and how did you kind of bring all these sort of characters into it?
Yeah, I guess once I had been in the studio and the songs were bigger,
Yeah.
I wanted to create that for a live show.
Yeah.
And have that same energy. And I mean, singing in a band is always something that's been in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
I'll always keep my solo acoustic thing as well, because I think there's something special about sitting down with a guitar and just singing. But I was so excited to put together a band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you kind of collect these guys?
It'd be cool if we had like this crazy story, but I just asked around.
Yeah.
I asked my friends on Facebook, because I know a lot of musicians out there, and these guys kind of just said, "We're keen."
Yeah.
And so we set up a practice, and it just fell together so nicely.
Yeah.
And I count myself so lucky to have these guys playing, because they're awesome. Yeah.
Have they brought in some sort of like some ideas in terms of, say, when you're taking the songs that from their recorded state, oftentimes they can kind of change a little bit when you're doing them live. It's not just like a cookie cutter replacement. Did they bring ideas on how it could be kind of modified or tweaked?
Yeah, and
live?
and like going into it, I said to them, I was like, there's creative freedom here,
Mm.
because I wanted to treat the live show separately to
Yeah.
the studio version, and it gave me the opportunity to have that band live feel,
Yeah.
whereas the studio ones are quite polished and
Yeah. And a lot of your sort of early exposure to music was of sort of like bands with a kind of raw almost feel to
Yeah,
it, sort
and
of like Arctic Monkey kind of
exactly,
stuff.
and that's like a quality I love, and so like the band allowed me to have that
Yeah.
and make a more polished record.
Yeah. Is it something you're looking to work sort of collaboratively with as well, or is it more like sort of you still want to try and keep a lot of the creative process in and around sort of your ideas and sort of work it through that, or do you kind of bring things to the table as a whole band as well?
I definitely want to include it, and I know going forward, because I am working out my sound more, I'm finding what I like, I will want to have like that band element to the songs. And I always, even in the studio, I always said like, I want to be able to picture a band playing this.
Yeah.
I want to hear the drums and the guitar.
Yeah.
So
And almost kind of place them in that sort of mental image as
yeah,
well.
as well as mixing it with more like modern elements and MIDI stuff and yeah.
How did it feel when you were sort of, does it feel very different for you getting up on stage, just you and a guitar, versus getting up with like support around you as well? Does that have like quite a different feel to it?
Yeah, it's much different.
Yeah.
I struggled with having more noise, because when you're just on your guitar you can hear yourself really well,
Yeah.
but in a live setting there was a lot more noise, but I loved it because it was time for me to have a bit more energy on stage. I can move around.
Yeah.
I'm not alone on the stage.
Yeah, there's just more energy around you in general.
Yeah, it's fun. I love it, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's nice not to be alone up on
Yeah,
the stage,
yeah.
you got your team there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody's there helping each other out.
Yeah.
Because have you got many plans in place as far as this year is concerned with the sort of live performance side of it?
I just hope to keep getting gigs and try for some summer festivals at the end of the year.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just definitely sort of having the band there now lets you kind of step out and be like, yo,
For sure.
let's just play
It
more.
opens more doors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sort of you can be on different shows that made like a singer-songwriter on their own wouldn't necessarily be appropriate for.
Yeah.
Whereas a whole band kind of vibe is a lot more sort of fitting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. It'd be cool because I saw you the other night. It'd be cool to catch it again for sure.
Yeah.
So a lot of the songs that you sort of put out on the EP existed for quite a while. Have you got a few new songs that you're kind of working on? And how's the vibe on those?
Yeah, I have a lot of material.
Yeah?
I'm always writing.
Yeah.
So I'm constantly thinking ahead.
Yeah.
I think it would be hard not to write.
It's like once you start, you can't stop.
Yeah, exactly. It's overwhelming sometimes. I'm like, I don't know what songs to put forward next. But the vibe, it's kind of similar to what I've been doing, but I guess as I go on, I'm developing my guitar skill more, working with other people like the band and like being in the studio. My eyes have been open to new things that I can do. So it's just getting better, I guess. But yeah, and the vibe, it's the same, but I guess I'm thinking more of the band
like progression
as well.
of it. Yeah, it's like sort of just evolving to that sort of next step sort of thing. Nice. When I was doing a bit of research around sort of what I wanted to ask and sort of talk about, you definitely come across quite a few YouTube covers. Do you use that kind of as a way to express a bit of things that you find that have sort of inspired you, or almost as a way to challenge yourself a little bit as well, as far as learning something a little bit different or a little bit sort of left of field to challenge yourself either on guitar or your voice? Sort of, what do you sort of use them for?
Yeah, I think it is like a challenge, practice as well, and it's fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do enjoy like making a little cover and putting it up. It's fun to sing someone else's song. Yeah.
Is it a direction you kind of want to push more in terms of like, trying to grow an audience when you starting to sort of think of that side of things? Is that something you are wanting to keep doing?
Like covers?
Yeah.
I probably am moving more away from covers just because I am enjoying like creating my own stuff so much.
Yeah.
But I always think it doesn't hurt to throw a little cover up every now and then. Yeah.
Because what are some things lately, sort of, have you got any in the works at the moment that you've kind of just been mucking around with? Or has it been really focused just on nailing
I feel
stuff?
like, I haven't really been doing any YouTube stuff or anything because I feel like getting the band together, we've been busy with rehearsals.
Yeah.
I'm really writing a lot lately because I'm thinking hard about the next project.
Yeah.
Because I hope to start that soon.
Yeah.
So I'm just stuck in my world at the moment, to be honest. But I'll always be jamming my favourite songs because I often like to throw that into an acoustic set or... Yeah.
Something to sort of mix it up a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I guess, with the process of how long, say, the previous EP took with COVID and everything like that, you've definitely got to be thinking next step forward. Almost now, it's almost like as you release one thing, you've kind of already got to either have a few things in the bag or be sort of have the ball rolling on the next step as well.
Definitely, yeah.
So what does the rest of 2021 kind of look like for you at the moment? Is it sort of like writing, performing? Like what's that? What are we looking forward to?
It's going to be a bit of writing and I hope to have gigs. It'll be a mix of that, and like I was saying before, I definitely want to get back into the studio and start a new collection of songs. Yeah. Probably do another EP. Yeah. And then just try and pick up gigs where I can.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to do it, especially when you're finding your sound, sort of not necessarily thinking, I've got to do like albums or where it's at or anything like that. You're like, I'm still refining. I don't want to almost like box myself into one thing right now. I'm finding where I'm going. Let's put a couple of songs out and see how it kind of grows before potentially diving into like an album.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and that'd just be daunting.
Although I am like, because I have so many songs ready, I'm like,
ooh, maybe
I would like to do an album, and I think it's so cool to have an album because you can really tell a story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on. It's been awesome having a chat with you.
Thank you so much for having me here. It's been great. Yeah.
And the songs were just beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's been awesome.
And